Welcome. Okay, obviously, we gon' get ready to have some chat time. Okay. Oh, why is that not showing up at all? Alright. Should be. Why can't I see anything? There you are. Okay. Okay, so, what's up, Ember? Okay, so if you guys are here, make sure that you don't forget to check out my links in the other page. Yeah, Discord server is a thing that you can do. Okay, you guys got audio only, but I think you should have video now. Yeah, I'm gonna give it another couple seconds. Okay, cool. There we go. Here we are.
So again,
Existing in or caused by nature. What does that mean?
so again,
Okay, not shit for you guys. This isn't involving you. Okay. All right. What's on your mind?
What's the difference?
So, a transgender person is a person whose like gender identity and like sex assigned at birth are different. And that includes people who are transsexual, but transsexual people in addition will also likely have enough like dissonance in their system that would like lead them to take like medical steps to change things about their body. Does that make sense?
So transsexuals take like medications to change is what I got from that. And
Yes.
transgenders just completely switch.
So, like a transgender okay, so like every transsexual person is transgender. Like transgender is kind of the bigger umbrella term generally. And like a transgender person who medically transitions is transsexual.
I got it. All right, thank you.
Okay. Okay, cool. Any other questions?
Um, no, not really.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for being nice.
Yeah. I thought I was just being regular, but yeah. Okay. So someone said, um, same shit. It's all BS. Hey, that's an opinion. Whatever. I'm old. Whatever happened to trisexual? That's ridiculous. But someone said thoughts on environmental xenoestrogens inducing trans identity. Um, is this essentially we're turning the frogs gay stuff? Like if they're putting estrogen or whatever in the water, it's going to make people more feminine. I don't, as of right now, think that the data shows that there is enough. Like there's enough data to show that the stuff that's like in the environment is affecting people's like hormone levels. Like yeah, when I'm like for example, I know that there are some animals who can be impacted by some things that they may have a more sensitive system than us, but yeah, not generally. Okay, hope that makes sense. What if you're born as male but want to be a female but likes females and also feels non-binary? Then you're probably that you might be like a non-binary trans feminine person who likes women. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. What's
Hi,
up?
how you doing?
Doing good. What's on your mind?
What's the difference between trans?
So the difference is essentially whether or not the individual medically transitions or not. So a transgender person has like the internal sense or like dissonance with their gender and their sex, perhaps they might they might change their name or go by a different name or something like that. Maybe they'll wear different clothing or something like that, but they don't feel the need to like change their body medically. There also might be people who like have a desire to change their body medically, but they don't have enough money. They don't have insurance. Like they would also be considered transsexual, but they just can't access the medical care that they need. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what if the trans person have both? What category do they fall in? Either one.
Then you're both. You can be both.
Okay,
If you're
so
transsexual, you are automatically transgender. You can't be transsexual.
okay, like
Well, yeah.
lately, I'm sorry to cut you off. Lately, I've been coming to a lot of topics like this,
Okay.
and earlier before I came here, it was one about how do people feel about trans people planning sports with natural women, and I had spoken said I don't agree with it. I think trans women should play sports with other trans women and
Yeah.
have our own stuff, if that makes sense. And then they was like, well, what are you? And I was like, I'm transgender female.
Hmm.
And it was like, well, you're not trans. Like, what is a natural born woman? And how can you not be a natural born woman and a trans? It was just confusing me. And I'm like, okay, well, I know I'm not delusional here because I'm
Yeah.
trans.
I think that in my opinion, there's a lot of like language that people can use kind of creatively in these different ways, and I don't know. Those conversations
Yeah.
frustrate me a little bit. Because I'm someone who um I'm more sympathetic to people who are like,
Mm-hmm.
let's think about like if there are differences or advantages that some individuals can have or whatever. And I know that there are some sports, for example, where like trans people are allowed to play in
All
like even in
right.
the Olympics, and some sports where they're not. My thing is like whatever the smarter sports science people think is fair, I I don't know. I'm down for that.
Yeah,
Um,
it was just sorry, it was just a topic, and I am, me being trans, a proud trans woman. Sometimes in our own community, like it be people who are not trans trying to tell trans people what they are, and I'm like, what?
yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to know the difference. So, which one would you prefer me to?
Hmm.
Okay, so you had surgery and a legal name change as well.
Hmm.
Okay, so what you prefer to call yourself transsexual or transgender? I
Like
either
both,
or.
but I think both terms accurately describe my
Right, but
experience.
I
I
think
think transsexual
transgender.
is more accurate because it describes like more of my entire experience. Like the dissonance that I experienced
Okay.
was intense enough for me to pursue medical treatment. Like
Yeah,
that is, and that's like an important part of my life, I guess. So like I think that's significant to me.
because I'm the only trans person in my family, and
Okay.
I've always been more on the straight side of the world than LGBTQ.
Okay. I
So
see what you mean.
I'm still learning,
Fair.
and a lot of people will like, how can you be something and don't fully know? I'm like, it's nothing wrong with learning, like early or
Yeah.
late. Like, I just never had an issue with, you know, having this conversation. So now that I know the difference, I appreciate it.
Awesome. No, I appreciate you coming in and talking a little bit. I definitely think that it's not like, in order to be trans, you have to know all the things. Like, that's
All
just
right.
ridiculous. Some people just do what they do for themselves and don't really spend time on the internet researching
But
about it.
it's good to like, learn, but
Yeah.
it's so much going on. I just know that I'm a trans and, I don't get really into everything. I don't agree with a lot of things in LGBTQ. I'm against some stuff and I'm with some stuff, like, if that makes sense. Like,
Sure. Like, no one, yeah, every community has going to have people who have different opinions generally. And I think that's fair.
yeah, and I think a lot of LGBTQ people have to realize that we don't all think the same or see things the same way. and all of us are not weird.
I think that's fair. I think that's true. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We have different
Well,
types
I
of
followed you,
experiences.
and Happy New Year's, and I really
Thanks
appreciate
so
it.
much.
Thanks.
Happy New Year to you as well. Happy New Year to you as well. Um, I think that this is the most. I think one of the reasons why I think this conversation is important is because of the way that I personally, because I spend time on the internet, right? And I see the way that different types of like trans communities will kind of like poke at each other, drag each other down. And I just, in my opinion, I'm like, that's an interesting choice to make. Um, I personally don't get it, but you know,
Yo, what's up, Slime?
what's up with you, Slimer?
Yo, my boy. Wait, hold on a second. I don't want to misgender you. What's your gender?
I use they them pronouns and like masculine leaning terms, so bro is fine.
Okay, just making sure, homie. Anyways, I just gotta ask, bro.
Okay.
Um, all right, so the whole thing here is transsexual versus transgender. So there's a difference between the two.
Mhm.
So then transgender is like not changing the way that you are, like not getting operations.
So like it will require like changes. So you may change like things medically about yourself, or sorry, for example, sorry, if you're transsexual, you might change things medically about yourself. If you're transgender, you might change things that like don't involve like your body medically, that more involve kind of the
Okay.
like gender and legal stuff, like your legal name, like gender markers on your pass not passport, but yeah, passport, license plate, and stuff like that, in order to be more congruent with like the gender that you kind of
Okay.
navigate life through. But perhaps you may not have enough dissonance to kind of make you want to like take hormones or something like that,
Okay.
or surgery.
Now, I have another question. Let me ask you like this, right? Would
Okay.
you consider a transsexual woman a biological woman?
Um, I think that it's like fuzzy. I would say like they in some senses, yes, and in some senses, there's some blurry stuff.
Okay. And those
Like,
senses and
yeah,
yes, right? My question is another question to that. If let's say I got like persuaded, right? I'm not persuaded, but let's say how do I ask this question without getting your live banned, right? Let's
okay,
say a straight man, right? A straight man did did some crazy wild stuff, right? With a
okay,
transgender woman, right?
okay.
Would he be considered gay if they
Tip.
so they haven't or let's say they did have the operations. That be considered gay or is that still straight?
Like, is it gay to hook up? Is it gay for a man to hook up with a woman? Like, no,
I'm
it's
talking
not.
about I'm talking about slamming another transgender woman. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, like, I'm not even gonna lie. There was this. Um, I don't even know if I want to say it out loud. Actually, um,
Yeah, I'm just
it's
like,
just
because I
like,
was thinking
yeah,
about this. I was like,
yeah.
wait a second. Does that make you technically, technically that makes you gay?
I think there are some people who like that works for them mentally. Like if they like a trans person, they might want to consider themselves bisexual. For some people, like they're like a person is like a lesbian and they've only dated women and they happen to be dating a trans woman right now, but they are still a lesbian. Like they still identify as a lesbian and they understand this person to be a woman and like
What
not.
if you didn't know though? What if you didn't know? Like they just were so good at like hiding it that you didn't know that they were originally a man, and then when you
A number
go
of
and
trans people live their life without people knowing it. It's called being stealth.
stealth. Okay,
Yeah.
so
So clearly, I'm not, because
so
I'm talking about my trans identity. I'm not stealth, right? Like I'm talking about
yeah,
it. There's some people who
yeah.
like they might like I don't know, like
Let's say
yeah,
they're
some
so good
famous
at
trans
it.
people who pass very well, but they talk about they're not stealth because they talk about their transition.
I know. Let's say okay. So let's say you're just a regular guy. I guess I shouldn't say the term regular, but let's just say you're a straight guy, right?
Okay.
And let's say that you didn't know that the person that you were tapping, right, was actually a man but a woman, right? Like a
Okay. Like
transgender woman.
was
And
born
you
a
didn't
different
know
sex than
that.
you
So
anticipated.
so you so
Okay.
you so you basically do the dirty dirty with that person with that, and you didn't know, right? But technically they were born a man, right? So
Okay.
would that still technically make you like, but you didn't know, right? Would that still technically make you gay?
I don't think it makes you gay, even if you know. Like if you know that someone's a trans woman and you sleep with her, I don't think that makes you gay. Like
What does
once
that
again,
make you, straight?
yeah, it makes you into women. Just like this woman happened to have been born male. Like just that's just
Honestly,
yeah. And
I'm
I will say
gonna
like
disagree with.
there might be some people who like their genital preferences make it very difficult for them to do that. That might be there, but there might be people who like are relatively straight but might not be as like married to
I
genitals.
see.
Yeah, because they're
Okay, well,
even within the sexes, like even within females and within male, like there are variations within what genitalia looks like. And if it's like you're too small, you're not even a man, I'm not going to be like that is just ridiculous. Like you know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's say let's do another. So let's say you're just a straight dude and you acknowledge a transgender has male parts, right? And you hop on that, you hop on that, you start writing like crazy, knowing that. Does that technically make you? That doesn't make you straight.
I I need you to understand that there are straight couples where the men are getting pegged frequently. Like you understand that that happens, right?
Yeah,
And so like that does not make you gay to be fucked in the ass by a woman. Like you're still straight. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
I yeah.
These
Yeah,
are
I don't get it.
questions that you can't. See, the thing is, and where every place is different. You can't just go out and ask these questions to a transgender person, and then because you don't know, right? Or at least you won't see them. They're not common,
Well,
and that's
definitely.
like
This is a
they're
very
not going
rare
to answer that
situation where a
question,
person's like, let's have a conversation about these very strange, cultural topics or whatever.
right?
But like,
But on TikTok, and it's going to be obliterated like Thanos when he snapped half of humanity out of existence. Uh, TikTok is going to get removed, and I had to answer this question extra speedy.
what? Wait, what question? Just
The
this
questions I've been
question?
asking.
Oh, okay.
Questions I've been asking.
Cool. Any other questions you have or no?
No,
All right.
I've said my piece.
Very cool. Have a good one.
You too.
All right. Um, Literally, guys, is it gay to have sex with women? Come on. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that makes sense. Good God. Also, I don't know. I have so many opinions because Flick Boogers made a comment that said she will lose respect for her man 100%. Like, that, yeah, there are lots of problems with like, um, misogyny, like the patriarchy that I think create that type of an issue. Like, if a man gets fucked in the ass, he's like degraded or something like that. That's not the case at all. And the fact that Flick Boogers like makes this mental connection is to me it's frustrating. Yeah, yeah, it's like yeah, very very frustrating. And I also think that people are incredibly ignorant, but who knows? Whatever. All right, right. What's up? Okay, Julius left. Thank goodness. All right. Um, yeah, someone said, "Hacker, are these genuine questions?" And I think that the idea, some of them were a little annoying, but I do think that also like I know that some of these questions are silly, but some people might have. Do you understand what our culture is? Like people literally be like, is it gay to wash your butt?" Literally. So that's what I mean. I feel like we do have to have these conversations and be able to help people make sense of this. Like, if you find a trans woman attractive, you're not gay. It's okay if you were gay. It's not bad to be gay in the first place. And I think maybe even that question, I didn't even think about this when I was asking it, but even that question, is it gay to like a trans woman? Or like, why would that matter even if you were gay? You know what I'm saying? Our cultural disgust with homosexuality and gender nonconformity is disturbing to me. You know what I mean? I don't like it. Um, I love how the new definition of ignorant is simply not falling in line with liberal ideology. I definitely don't think so. I literally just think that I just mean being ignorant about these topics because I would probably be ignorant about. I'm ignorant about stuff. I don't know on the right wing. I'm ignorant about QAnon. Like you can be ignorant about a ton of things. Um, yes, anything Jess says, anything deemed feminine is yeah, anything deemed feminine is often considered gay, which is sad to me because obviously, like I went on this rant or this TikTok rabbit hole the other day of like it wasn't that long, but just like of like straight men who like having really really extravagant nails, and it's like the most like the minorest thing, the minorest thing is having your nails done. But people will be like, "Oh my gosh, queen, got your nails done, slay," and I'm not sure if that's helpful or like, I don't know what that does to people culturally. It's just like you're allowed to be open and like be creative, and it's a weird cultural connection that we make with create like I don't know creativity, being fancy, or like I don't know even like men dressing up or wearing like not like a suit and tie. Um, okay, best example of this is like watch the not the Oscars, whatever the one is with the where they dress really extravagantly and it's like a secret dinner or whatever. Um, and I can't remember what it is. Anyway, but the women's the Met Gala, yes, thank you. The women's outfits, fucking extravagant. You have the occasional man who might have yeah, thank you guys, yeah. You might have the occasional man who has like, you know, a very, very extravagant outfit on, but it just seems like culturally we immediately assess like, oh, if he has a very fancy suit, he must be queer. He must be a little fruity or something. All right. So let's answer some questions real quick, right? What are the difference between these terms? So someone asked, what's the difference between transsexual, transgender, and transvestite? I'll answer all these questions. So all of those terms fall into what's called the trans umbrella, right? The transgender umbrella. Being transgender is the experience where kind of your internal sense of gender or kind of the behaviors, the performance of your gender that you take is not aligned with your sex assigned at birth. And that's how it kind of tends to play out. Gender tends to be relatively performative. There are some, our internal essence or internal sense of these feelings or whatever, I think is our gender identity, for example. But yeah, having that difference makes you a transgender person. If that, so it's kind of like a spectrum, I guess, for transsexual and transgender. And there might be individuals who just have like a high intensity of distress that leads them to what's that called? Change their body medically. Um, and this is like, because this is a medical condition, this is why it's treated as a medical treatment to help these people like live healthy, happy lives, right? Um, Transgender individuals may also need some type of support. The most medical care you might see for a transgender person might be like mental health care or something like that, but they're not really going to be doing any health care to change their body or change their sex characteristics. But they may want to change their pronouns or something like that. They may change the way that they present in their dress. They may bind their chest or something like that. Yeah. And what does it mean to be transvestite? So this term is pretty outdated and has been um, uh, uh, more under, I guess, kind of changed with the word cross dresser. It's typically what it means. Um, on my YouTube channel, we just watched all of Paris is Burning. It was like two streams that we did. So if you want to watch that, you can. It's on my live stream section. And a lot of some of the women who were there, some of them were like trans women, some of them were like very gender like presented as kind of like very gender non-conforming men, perhaps. Like there was a wide variety of like presentations there, and it also seemed like a wide variety of individual experiences. Some of the women kind of really, maybe they did also perform in the ballroom, but also kind of walk through life as women generally. And there were also another individual, and I'm upset that I can't remember everybody's name, who described herself as like a transvestite, which means a cross dresser, but then also mentioned like having conversations with her mom and her mom being like, you're a woman, and like when she started growing breath, like how uncomfortable that made her mom, like. And so clearly like this person, I mean, not clearly, but it seems that this individual might have been on some type of hormone replacement therapy. So the language that we've been using for these terms and stuff like that has changed significantly over the years. And I feel that I guess it was probably early 2000s time, was this time where people were like, the word transsexual is like derogatory. The word transsexual connotes this idea that, and this is another thing too, is that like a lot of people's first introduction to transsexual people was pornography, pornography. Sorry, I'm trying to, trying to deal with all the algorithms here. So, in order to like desexualize the experience of transsexual people, transgender people, maybe switching away from the word sex, especially because in our culture, when a person says sex, we immediately think about the act. Oftentimes, we will think about the act of intercourse rather than um, like our birth sex. It's inconvenient that we use the same word for both things. Like it's I don't know. I feel like it's kind of weird. I don't know what other cultures do, or if other cultures are the same in the way that they other languages. I don't know any other languages other than English. But yeah, so I wonder about those types of things. But that was, to my understanding, that was one of the reasons why there was this little bit of this cultural shift around the word transsexual specifically. And so it was like, okay, that word's derogatory, that word's negative. Um, I've even watched a couple of people say, I find the word, not me, but other people, trans people say, I find the word transsexual offensive. Do not call me a transsexual person. I am transgender. Even though this, like the one individual that I'm speaking of was a trans woman, I believe medically transitioned, like fully medically transitioned or whatever, but still just did not feel comfortable with that term. And the way that she talked about it also, like yeah, yeah, the way that she talked about it also seemed like there might have been some, like maybe she was from like another country and there might have been some different cultural implications. But yeah, that might shift some of the opinions and stuff like that. But yeah, I hope that that makes sense for people. Yeah. Okay. And Nelly over on YouTube, I know it's hard, but there's not a lot of other. Um, I can think of like 3 or 4 off the top of my head, like non-binary, like transsexual people on the internet who talk about stuff, and I'm sure there's plenty more that I just have not spotted, but there are. Yeah, it can be a bummer. And then also like in real life, you know, I don't meet a lot of other non-binary trans people in real life. Um, like non-binary transsexual people who like medically transition, because that's a specific thing, and sometimes you want people who share very similar experiences as you. I'm writing this other thing because I want to talk about this in a YouTube video because I think that it's important enough. But like these differences can help communicate things very quickly. Like if you say that you are a breast cancer, like okay, let's say there are two women who've had mastectomies, and you might say they have the same experiences, but one of them says I'm a breast cancer survivor, and the other one says I think it's a BCRA one trait carrier. Um, One of them had cancer, and like that was the reason why they got the mastectomy, and the other one had a preventative mastectomy. So those words like cancer survivor or BCRA trait carrier like communicates a lot of information very quickly to people, so that it tells people a lot about their story, about their journey, how they got to where they've gotten to, right? And so that's why I think that in my opinion, I think that the cultural degradation, I guess, of the word transsexual has not been very helpful in terms of like helping communicate clearly transgender people's experiences. And then I think that this conflation has caused a lot of frustration for transgender and transsexual people because of the types of conversations that they have with each other and the frustration that they're having in conversation with each other. And they're like, we're the same. We have the same experience, but then they talk about their experiences like these experiences are very different. So then it can be pretty difficult. I see this when I go to like pay like um what are they called? Non Like Facebook pages and stuff like that. Or Reddit pages, forums, and other community spaces for trans people. They'll connect. I need to stop that. They'll connect and they'll like um one of them might say, "Hey, I'm really curious about transition. Um, I've been, I'm, really excited to, I'm really excited to like start my transition and like, pass as fully male. And as soon as it happens, and I want to be like stealth or something." Um, and then someone else might say, like, it's you're ashamed of your transness if you are stealth, and everyone who's trans must be out about it and open about it or something like that. Um, yeah, some people might have like we kind of met. Someone mentioned it the other day. They might have like more political affiliations with their gender identity or the reasons why they've shifted their gender identity, which would be a very very different experience from someone who's like, I have a medical this issue like requires me to get medical care, medical support. Um, and then also a lot of the reason why I find this conversation useful very much lives under this umbrella of I'm like bound by the insurance system in America. And if we don't medicalize transness, then trans people don't get healthcare. So if I lived in a different world, I might find different utility with different language. The reason why I find this language useful here in America is because of some of those structural things. Okay, what's up?
How are you?
Doing
I'm
fine.
24, by the way. So what it's been a year since I've been trying to figure this out. I'm so happy you're running this live because I know some people say that they're transsexual, and I hear some people call themselves transgender, and I didn't know. I thought that they were the same. But what is the main differences of those two identities?
Okay. So some of sometimes they are interchangeable, like, and I would say that they're interchangeable for some people. Specifically, like transsexual people are both transsexual and transgender. And the reason is because, like, in order to be transsexual, you have to at least be transgender. Being transgender is just um, having essentially like a different gender identity than your sex assigned at birth, or either because some people don't, I don't know, don't resonate with the gender identity, but they just have a desire to be a different sex or to have different sex characteristics. And that desire is strong enough to kind of cause like dissonance or distress, so that they pursue medical care of some kind, whether it's hormones or surgery. And that person would be transsexual. But does it make sense that like they would have to be transgender in order to be transsexual? Does that make sense?
Kind of. Sorry, I was trying to figure out how to unmute myself. For some reason,
Okay.
it's not popping at the bottom. So I was like, oh shit.
Oh, you're good.
Kind of. Like, do you have I'm like an analogy or something? Like a transsexual
would that mean that they transitioned their sex? Am
Yeah,
I
that's
able to
actually
say
the best.
that?
That's the way that I kind of think about it.
That makes
Transsexuals
so much
trans like
sense.
transsexuals trans their sex characteristics, and transgender people will trans their gender. So like, so for some people that might be very very small, um, like small things like changing their name. Well, that, I mean, it might seem small, but it's a big emotional
Yeah.
thing. But like, yeah, well, it's like less life, maybe like, less altering in your life than like a surgery or something like that. That might be more expensive. Well, depending. Sometimes getting a name change is very expensive. Um, anyway, but yeah, so it's either being transsexual is doing that with your sex characteristics, and then transgender is changing um, your gender, whether that's kind of like a shift in gender
Yes,
identity,
yes. No, they're
like, yeah,
interchangeable. Yeah. Okay, that makes so much sense now. Damn,
cool.
dude.
I'm
Sorry.
sorry. Someone said that one is physical and the other is emotional. No, that's not what it
That's not.
is.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
don't think.
it's
No.
that's not understanding kind of the point. But
So, does every trans person have gender dysphoria in some way, shape, or form? Because I know it's not just for trans people. For some reason, people say it's just for trans people, but it's not. But, anyways.
so they will have like some type of like dissonance, some type of like disconnection. Gender dysphoria like is specific to the intense distress that comes for an individual when their sex and gender don't align. Some transgender people will have it won't be that intense. They'll feel something that's like something's not quite right, that leads them to change their name or something like that. But they don't have like this distress that causes them to have the desire to like change their like body medically.
I feel like the distress of having to go through such an invasive, I couldn't. I'm good. Like, I think that would overlap in some cases for people because it's just I don't know. I don't think that everyone who's trans should seek that out because it can cause horrible complications in the end as well.
Yeah,
But
people should
or
not
it can,
take this stuff lightly.
yeah, it's not. It's not. I've done a lot of research on it. The male to female is a little bit more easier, but the female to male is just not there. It's not the research, the surgeries are just not there. High risk of infections and everything like that. So
Yeah, it's a very much a mixed it's a very much a mixed bag. There are tons of people. Let's say a handful of people who have very good success stories, and then others of people who have mixed success. And there are some devices that are just not allowed in America, that they just won't permit to have in America, that are much more successful for trans men, but they just won't allow it. Some of the stuff makes me very frustrated. Um, yeah.
just as crazy
Yeah.
to me because this can be beneficial for not just trans people but also cis people.
I'm trying to say.
Like I suffered, and I still do. I see a pelvic floor with vaginal stenosis for years, and
Okay.
I still suffer
Yeah.
with it. I lose about 4 millimeters of length in my canal every year, so I have to probe and stuff.
That sounds.
And
Yeah.
it's extremely painful,
Mm-hmm.
and because of everything that's
Wow.
going on, I don't get the help that I need. And there's devices, like you said, that aren't permitted in the US
It's
that's
just so,
covered by
yeah, it's
insurance.
so frustrating. Yeah.
Like there's so many different like techniques and everything, and all they give you is like these rubber. I just like I could have just picked that up from my local SMEC store. Like,
Right.
can you give me something that's actually going to help, please? But yeah,
Wow.
I totally get it. Thank you for explaining that to me because you made it a lot more make sense. Because some people have been trying to learn it for a year, and I
Awesome.
forget or I just can't comprehend. My
Yeah.
brain
And
just
this is kind of what
doesn't.
I'm thinking. Like, I'm thinking of trying to communicate this as a very, it seems it's pretty easy to understand. It's inclusive. And it helps people communicate stuff about themselves, I think, without being weird or hurtful. Um, but yeah, thank you so much for asking your questions. And please come back if you'd like to share more.
I definitely will. Thank you for letting me up. Have a great day.
Absolutely. Have a good one. Thank you. So we've got another from YouTube. Crystal says, I always thought transsexual was an outdated term for transgender. And that was definitely my thought about it. When I first came out, um, I I really only considered the word transgender. Like, I guess people who I was around didn't like use the word transsexual at all. I didn't really find the importance of, like, I don't know, just I don't know, understanding myself as transsexual until actually after my first surgery was when I don't know, was when mentally that started to become more, I don't know, more important to me personally. Um, and and also I think that a lot of the reasons why I think this conversation is really important, like, um, yeah, one of the reasons why I find this conversation so important is because people can utilize this in a weird way that's like, who's the real trans out of the, is it the transsexual, transgenders? Transsexuals are the real trans. And I think that is just a misunderstanding of what's happening. All right, so Rome says, you're saying, I couldn't do it, so I give them props. I don't know if that means like you were thinking of transitioning, but then didn't go through with it. Um, which I definitely understand. It's a tough thing to do, if that's what you mean. But and he said, plus, changing gender identity doesn't change how people see you, but maybe it helps the individual. I would relatively agree. Okay, no, that's not what you meant. Okay, if you, I'm not sure what you meant by that, but no one should talk about it. That's how I accept any sexuality. Well, John, no one likes you, so there's that. Okay, but you said, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to what you said about changing gender identity doesn't change how people really see you. And I will say, like, it obviously doesn't change, like, the your physical appearance. And one of the reasons why I'm so, like, sympathetic to, I don't know, the challenges that people have with, like, um calling some, like, I understand that there are people who have real issues with, like, calling someone who, like, has a beard she her, or has like a 5 o'clock shadow or something she her, like, mentally feels like too hard for them. Um, Also, there are plenty of women who have. Anyway, but we're not even going to get into that conversation. I'm not even going to do that. But um, And the only reason why I have some sympathy towards that is because of schema and like developmental learning, how like humans learn stuff, and like it really can get really deeply ingrained into our brains that like there are little tiny things that um yeah, I'm trying to think of what word, I don't know, that communicates that faster or something. Anyway, the fight within there's fights within every community, okay? Whether or not you whether or not you want to, I don't know, agree with their legitimacy or not. No one really cares. What's up, Matthew? Um, but yeah, there's always fighting. And also, I also think that I just really wish that trans people, not just trans people, like LGBT people, would, no, sorry, the LGB people specifically, who are like, it's only LGBT and only the transsexuals are the good ones. I don't like you, okay? You annoy me. Want to know why? Because you're the problem, okay? I'm joking a little bit. Um, I don't think that it's helpful for us to be as, I don't know, rigid as we're being. Like, what was I gonna say? Um, People shouldn't have to, yeah, like people shouldn't have to feel like they have to like earn their transness or something like that. It's a bizarre thing. And I do think that there is a little bit of like, I don't think survivor's guilt is the right word, but it's like I suffered. I suffered a lot. You didn't earn the suffering that I earned. I earned this title because of all the suffering that I bled and cried for this title. So you don't get to have it because all you did was put on a skirt, and that you're not trans enough. Like I think that's where it comes from, in my opinion. That's where it comes from. At least partially. Partially. Um, uh, Being uncomfortable in your own secondary sex characteristics can be much more uncomfortable than the pain of healing from surgery, unfortunately. Yeah, yeah. Way more, it's like way more complex. Like, for example, there's a reason why there are some people who like, I don't know if this is a weird thing to say, but like, even like people who self harm will harm themselves, even, and sometimes they say like it makes complex psychological issues into something that's real, like real that I can experience. Um, so only in the difference, the reason why I mention that is like there's a difference between the kind of like ongoing psychological distress of like of being in a different being in a different body than you'd like to be in, right? And the discomfort from surgery is very is bad, but is temporary at the same time. Um, yeah, like recovering from surgery was bad, but being dysphoric was worse. Yeah. All right. So we got another question. Can you explain the difference to a non-native English speaker? I like to, once again, I'm going to say this the easiest way. transgender people trans their gender, transsexual people trans their sex as well. Transgender people do both. Transsexual people do both. Transgender people understand that their gender identity, their felt sense of gender, their preferred sex is different than the sex that was assigned to them, sex, gender, whatever, that was assigned to them at birth. Um, so they're like, so for example, like they're like, my sex characteristics literally don't match what I want my sex characteristics to be. For somebody who's transgender, they're like, my gender identity doesn't match the gender identity that I want to be, so I might change my gender identity. Um, and then might communicate those changes to some other people. So transsexual people get a surgery. It's more that transsexual people have the desire to get surgery, like would get surgery. Um, yeah, yeah, they would get surgery. Um, or they would go on hormones. Some of them, like for example, there might be a transsexual person who who can only like socially transition because of a medical issue. They have some type of condition where they can't take any like exogenous hormones. They can't do any type of like surgeries or anything like that. And I don't feel like you're being mean, Jazzy. You're asking the questions pretty politely. Yeah, whatever you are born as is what you are. I'm sure 95 to 90% of the population feel this way. I'm pretty sure you're accurate. The majority of women are female and they're cool with that. The majority of men are male and they're cool with that. There just happen to be the outliers that are not, and that's it. 100% of human people remain human after they're born. Thank you. Devlin. We needed that. But yeah, the gatekeeping specifically is unnecessary. Yeah, two spirit male, he, she, basically. I'm a woman's spirit in a man's body, but comfortable with my body. Yeah. Um, so, okay, great question for Jazzy. Would non-binary people be classified as transgender, or is it an independent thing? Um, it def Devlin, it depends on the person. Um, I the majority, I think. I really honestly don't know. I believe that this is the way that it is just because of the recent data. And also like non-binary surgeries and stuff are on the research is on the rise right now, I would say. So the answer is there are some non-binary transsexuals. Like I identify as a non-binary transsexual because I'm non-binary. Like my gender identity does not fit neatly within like man or woman. As I walk through the world, like I said, like people use like masculine terms for me, and I don't really care about that or whatever. But also I have like transitioned medically, so that's why I utilize that word. Um, and why I feel like it helps communicate information about my life. It helps me connect with other transsexual, non-binary people who I relate to, and I relate to their experiences and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, I think there is a rising number of people who are open to this like type or way of having this conversation specifically. So thank you, Devlin, for joining the team. Much appreciated. Um, yeah. Um, yeah. Uh, I'm not gonna. I'm not sure what you're about to say with that. But yeah. So two spirit people. Okay, I watched this other video, right? And the majority, I think, of um cultural, like third gender traits are like in the transgender, like fall into the transgender umbrella. And I'm sure that if those individuals like transition medically, then in from the American culture definitions would then fit into this term. The other thing that I want to state too here is that these terms are, and I've mentioned before, for me, they're very, very married to like American culture and the like American medical system. Unfortunately, like I find that's very something very, very, very important to communicate. Um, yeah. Two don't flip through. They discuss this. Two won't foot. I don't know what the. Oh, two Wong Fu. Is that is that what you're saying? Yeah. Okay. Oh, Jazzy. Okay, cool. We have transgender in our country, but not transsexual. Right. So I want to be very clear that I'm not trying to do some type of global thing to change, but this is specifically around the American conversation. And this is like I said, it's useful to me as an American for some of the specific reasons with the way that our medical system functions. Um, um, and hold on a second. And would, for example, be like embarrassed if someone took out all of his pants and changed them with pink pants because pink is a girly color or something like that. We are all trained to perform gender. The great RuPaul said it. You know, we're all born naked and the rest is drag. So, yeah. Okay. Trump is gonna Trump is gonna ban this app in 2 weeks. Yeah. Yeah. All the world is a stage. Um, I I I got like I don't know, not very far into the book. I think and then I paused and started reading something else. But I was reading a little bit of um, I think it was either Gender Trouble, sometime some Judith Butler stage or some Judith Butler book. And I'm not sure if I agree with all of her positions and stuff yet because I haven't like finished reading her stuff, so I don't know all of her philosophy. Um, and I think actually, I'm not sure. I think Judith uses she/they pronouns, but yeah, uh, they talk a lot about how gender is performance. That's all the reason why I wanted to say that. Um, yes, Michelle Trump girl said, "P is male, vagina, female, period." Thank you so much, Michelle Trump girl. I have never been more needed of that sentence, and I would never have known that. Yeah. Um, what is it? Is it Klinefelter syndrome? You'd be very shocked to discover Klinefelter syndrome because sometimes males have vaginas. Oh no! Oh my God! Ah, it happens. Yeah, like sex is very bizarre. Sometimes it gets really weird. Sex is not as clear cut. I have, from man to woman, woman to man. Uh, I don't know. I know penis and vagina is that's it. That's it. Yeah. Sex change operation. I see, I see, I see. That was so fucking funny. Yeah. Yeah, and Klinefelters is very, very rare. And being trans is relatively rare. Like it's pretty small. Um yeah, very, very small portion of the population. Just like all um, DSDs and stuff like that. But I need to watch that movie because like I don't even know what it's about. Like I have no idea what it's about. Like I guess it's about a sex change operations. Like maybe it's about is it Amelia Perez a trans woman? Like is that what's happening? Like, I have no clue what's happening. Okay. Oh my god. All right. 1 to 500. That's such a small number. But yeah, Schoolboy Q. It's crazy that people will call people who are actually exist and be like, "You guys are living a fairy tale," and I'm like, "Okay, all right." And the other thing too, I watched a lot of things today that made me so irritated and annoyed. I was watching Blair White, and just a real small portion of one of her videos. But it wasn't a video of hers actually. It was be very specific when we're talking about transsexual people. I'm like, do you hear the fact that she said she couldn't even realize that as she was saying it out of her mouth, like she was changing language. Because yes, we should be specific when talking about transsexual people. And that's why we have a transgender umbrella, so that we can talk about the more specific things that are under that trans umbrella. I think that she just is really mad that non-binary people, some of them are like the same thing as her. Like that's very upsetting to her. But it's the reality. Like she's transsexual, just as other non-binary people are. Yeah. Why do you sound like that? Um, because when a mommy and daddy love each other very much, then they get together and then they have a human, and then sometimes that human will develop a voice, and then I'm joking. This is just the way that I talk. Okay. All right. Got like 10 minutes for this last conversation. See how it goes. We'll see if it even. Okay. What's up? Hello.
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 Okay, so why? What is the point of being transsexual when you could just become an alien?
Because like being transsexual is about changing your sex characteristics, and to my understanding, there is not an alien sex characteristic. Like, and maybe actually, I think that there are people who do that. Like that one guy who was like, "I want to be an alien," and then he like tattooed his whole face or something. So people can do that. That's just not being trans. They're not being transgender or transsexual. Monster. Okay, great. That's what I thought. Okay. Yeah, Ambassador of Yahweh needs to go talk to Yahweh again because clearly you need some assistance with something. I don't know. Thanks for the finger heart. I know, yeah, Jubilee is so annoying. And I love the drama, okay? Okay? Yeah. Um, yeah, not even good bait. There's better bait. I've gotten better today. Um, People who say that, um, Yeah, it's like, oh, and then one of the other things I wanted to say about Blair White was she was talking about the terms like transsexual and transgender, and she was like, the term transgender is like really new. Like the transsexual term, like that's like the good term, and transgender came out like 1 year ago or like 10 years ago or something. Like there's like 40 years of difference. Like yes, there's a bit of time, but it's only 40 years. Like it's not that massive. The difference. It's not that massive. Um, absolutely. We're gonna give this definition a million more times, and I say it differently, a little bit differently every time. Maybe I'm trying to figure out what the best quick little way to do it, but um, best way to put it is transgender people will have some type of like disconnection or like dissonance with their gender, with their sex assigned at birth and their gender and their kind of subsequent gender because of the way that sex and gender are connected in our society. So they will have some type of dissonance with their sex assigned at birth and their gender identity as they get older, and may like take some practical, social, legal steps to change their gender. An individual who is transsexual will likely do the work to change their gender, like in terms of like how they dress and maybe their name, like more feminine or masculine name, XYZ. Um, but then will also like have enough kind of dissonance that would make them want to change their body medically. Um, yeah, and that's the thing. It's being able to come up with better language is how we grow and learn as humans. If our language just stays the same, that's a little bit boring and silly. So yeah. And 573 says, "Are you aware that to participate in anything trans is satanic worship? Do you know that that's a cult? Thank you for letting me know. Um, yes, have been indoctrinated into the cult of trans. The rules are the trans fairy has to visit you, and you have to believe in the trans fairy with all your heart, and you will be saved because the fairy died on the cross for your sins. And then if you don't believe in the fairy, then you go and like burn in like fairy hell forever. I wonder if he's in a cult actually. No, I'm joking. Um, the trans cult thing just does not work for me enough. Um, there is some like, for example, like and some of this is just like political, like ideological political stuff, where like people just get very married to certain definitions and will be very gung ho about different types of things, and I think we'll get into silly arguments. I think that happens, but to say that that's the same as like actual like cult, it to me is a little bit extra. Um, the quickest way to say it is that transgender people will trans their gender, and transsexual people will trans their sex characteristics through like medical interventions. So a transgender person, and I would say transsexual people will do both because of like yeah, if you change your sex characteristics, it, it's like I think becomes maybe a little bit easier to shift like, at least cultural perception of your gender. That's probably the best way to say it. Yes, the undead son of the great invisible fairy in the sky will have to save you. You'd have to believe. And what you have to believe in is like transness or something like that. Like you have to believe in your heart that you're trans. But I don't know. We're trying to make this pretend trans cult that we're apparently all in. Yeah. Yes. Yes. All transsexual people are transgender, but not all transgender people are transsexual. Exactly. And all of them are valid. And I just even think that's a little bit, it's just kind of silly and ridiculous. And I was reading a couple. I didn't read the full chapter, but a chapter from a book that was released in 2014. I forget the author's name, but damn it, and I forgot what I was going to say as I was going to say it. Oh, he was mentioning that there's probably a lot of transgender people, specifically transgender people, who like aren't recorded in any type of like journals or medical journals because a lot of like there might not be a reason for them to seek out medical care. And I think that to say like transgender people, like transgenderness or whatever, is yeah, like really does not need to be medicalized at all. Like there's just no need for transgender stuff to be medicalized. There is a lot of need, practical need for transsexuals to be medicalized just for them to be able to get access to the medical care that they need. That's it. It's boring. In my opinion, this is kind of boring stuff. Like it's just being able to help support people to get like the help, resources, support, um, everything like that that they need, and I believe that they deserve. Um, yeah. Um, and well, the other thing too is I'm kind of like workshopping this a little bit, trying to see how humans connect, like other people that I talk to, like connect to this concept or idea. Um, and yeah, it's not like I'm going like a TV show about it or anything. But yeah, what's your question? You said that that's not logical. I didn't see a question that you asked. But yeah, I will stay if you want to ask me the question again. Um, yeah, all I see is that you said that's not logical. Most ex-Christians had a religion, not a personal relationship with Jesus, and that's sad to hear. I know a lot of ex-Christians who had a very deep relationship with Jesus. I was one of them. Yeah. Bradley, are you gonna ask me a question? Because I'm gonna leave if you don't. Anyway, if you're here, make sure you double check my Discord server. I post there when I'm gonna go live if you're interested, stuff like that. Always good stuff. Always glad to have you guys connect over there. Um, yeah, Bradley, I don't care if I'm asking you. If I'm asking you to repeat it, then repeat it. If you don't want to repeat it, then you do what you're doing. But yeah. Oh, sometimes I can do this thing where I tap on it and then it shows me all the other comments that the person did, but sometimes it doesn't work. Yeah, I don't know how to make it work. Okay. Yeah, no one is scrolling. Yeah. Like, what do you think this is? I pray you find your way. I've already found it. And, um, ouch. I don't know why I said ouch. Um, all right, guys. Um, yeah. And the other possibility, Bradley, is that one of the words in your question was like blocked, and it just didn't get posted because that happens sometimes. Um, but yeah. And then sometimes I filter it, and then sometimes like TikTok filters it themselves. Um, and that's why you see like all of the chat things that went through that were like slurs or like derogatory utilized like odd character so that the AI couldn't catch it. All right. So hey Bradley, if you really want to ask me a question, the best thing to do is to join my Discord server and reach out to me there. Like my Discord server is open to everyone who's over 18. You can join. I don't care what your position is. You can be someone who's more on my side of things. You can be someone who doesn't agree with me at all on other things. Yeah. Um, and then Major Bill wrapping us up with the dumbest comment I've ever seen. Um, and like Bradley, you said that did not get filtered, and it literally did because I don't see your question. Um, and sorry, someone said this is the best comment that I've seen in my life. Where'd it go? Damn it. Oh, there it is. It says, well, we know one thing. The 79 genders did nothing for California. Yes. What is your name? Major Bill 8011. That's the point of gender expression. Is to protect homes from wildfires. Fuck me. Fuck me. Seriously. Seriously. How if you don't care, if people don't care about people's genders and like respecting the gender of a person who like lives near you, why do you think that people are going to care about the planet and like helping the planet and future generations? Like if you can't help your neighbor who's right there because you think that they're icky and annoying, like what the like why would you care? Why? Yeah. Um because wildfires are happening because our planet is burning because of climate change. Because we're greedy as humans. And we can't stop doing everything and yeah. Anyway, uh uh, I think so because Abel. This makes a lot of sense. Um when Jesus is mad at you, he checks to see what the sin is. So if Jesus is probably mad at America because Kamala got any votes at all. Jesus, someone God told me himself that Jesus is really upset because Kamala got someone voted for Kamala, anyone voted for Kamala, and that is a slap in the face to Jesus Christ himself. So therefore, he looked around, he saw California, he was like, "There's a lot of genders over there. They're celebrating shit. They got protections, for genders and shit." And he said, "Let's go." Jesus lit it on fire himself. And if only you loved Jesus more, if only you were like Moses, who is it, Noah, and your heart was pure enough to like say that